Welcome to the Laura and Benny show. It took us a whole month.
Where have you been? You didn't show up.
What do you mean?
I was ready to go
That's
the 1st of February.
Oh, don't tell lies.
And you were like,
What happened yesterday?
I'm far too busy.
What happened yesterday?
Oh, yes.
Why
yesterday
are
I
we
was
so
sleepy.
far apart? This is like, you know, we used to be closer. Why am I further away from you?
It's like COVID coping mechanisms. You
You're,
can't be too close.
Physically distancing. I can't. Oh, I don't know. No, this is going to go well. My words aren't working today. I got up this morning and I decided to go for a swim on my own.
Deep sea diving.
No, not deep sea diving, Benny. Just getting in the tide on my own. Haven't done it on my own ever. I was convinced I would be like eaten by a shark or the otter that lives there would attack me, but that hasn't happened. And it was all good. It was all good, right? Until I did the swim. I got out, and you're kind of like towel around you, like one strap of the swimming togs is like down, so like possibly there's a bit of boob hanging out on one side, and then but there's no one around, so it's
Right.
grand. And then like there's no one there. It's just me. And in this moment, a council driver comes down to empty the poop bin that I've never noticed before. So because it's just you and him, he feels like, you know, he should be polite and just have a quick conversation of, oh, is it cold? And you're kind of going, you're standing there and you're kind of chatting to this council man on the beach with like half a towel, half togs, dripping wet, kind of going, go on away now. Let me put my clothes back on. But other than that, it was lovely.
Right. I was informed about some sort of TikTok silhouetting red filter removal nonsense last night. Don't know. Apparently it's craze. All the ladies get naked and do a
Right.
silhouette on TikTok using a magic filter.
What have you been watching?
No, well, this is what gets shared around the internet, and then all the geeks are like, "How do we remove the filter?"
I'm not on TikTok, I must say.
So-
I tried and I was like, no, I'm not cool enough.
Maybe the council worker couldn't figure out how to remove the filter on TikTok, so he decided just to catch it in the nip.
Oh, you could have been recording me for all I know. It wouldn't have been pleasant though, to be honest. After my month of January sitting around, I just sat around for the month. Oh my God, it was terrible.
So February has quite a contentious topic within its characteristics.
I'm really terrified of this. Like, you have a whole sheet of notes. Like, I know what's going on in the world right now, but I kind of feel like I'm going to get attacked here.
You think February's in spring?
I do think February's in spring, and I'm correct.
You reckon?
Yeah, it's like, isn't the 1st of February like St. Bridget's Day? And it's like, I learned this the other day because her school decided to give them some time off because, you know, they needed a bit of time off.
A day off for
virtual-
St. Bridget.
For St. Bridget.
Are they all
because,
going,
you know, they only have the leaving cert to get
That's the
done.
one you make the cross with the twigs, isn't
yeah.
it?
Yeah, well, not twigs, like, but you know, little
It is,
sticky
yeah, the
things.
twigs.
Yeah.
So you can make a cross
So,
out of anything.
like, it is. It's the first day, and like the lambing season is full blown.
I did a bit of research.
Did you?
I did. So, in terms of temperature scale, you're
Right.
moving from cold to cool in February.
Someone should tell the beast from the east that from a few years ago.
But there's always a threat of frost, so it's not quite growing season.
Are we doing the weather now on this podcast?
No,
as well?
I'm
Is this like a
arguing
weather
why it's
section?
winter. It is winter.
It's not, okay. So
And I think people's problem is November feels like winter when November is actually autumn.
okay, let me ask you a question.
Go on.
What season is May?
What's May?
What season is May?
Is spring.
It's not.
So you're going with summer.
Okay, what season is September?
And I've looked at the temperature range.
Stop looking at temperatures. What season is
It's
September?
really, really hot.
I can't believe
in
we're
June,
having
July
this
and
argument.
August.
It's not.
It's very
February,
important.
March, April, spring, full stop.
What if
May,
someone's
June,
like
July,
having a
summer.
spring wedding and they like pick February and they're wrong?
Not wrong. I'm
They could
telling
end
you.
up in winter.
Although I did see someone post up saying something like, it's only 2 months to spring on the 1st of February, and I was kind of going, what? They're celebrating spring in April.
Yeah, they might be in a different region. The good thing for you, because you've darkness problems.
Oh man, I do. I get like I need this clock nonsense to stop, and I need it to be bright, or we just need to move country, like somewhere warm, the equator somewhere, because I need bright.
So the
in my
good
life.
news in February, you go from having about 9 hours of sunlight, daylight,
Right. Is that all we get? 9
at
hours?
the start, to nearly 11.
Okay,
Just shy of
I'll-
11.
I'll take that.
Do you know why? Because spring is coming in March.
No, it's not.
And it's
because
still
it is
winter.
spring and it's getting brighter.
See, I think you just want 4 months of winter. November, December, January, February.
Why would I want 4 months of winter?
Because of your categorisation of February into spring.
It's not.
Yeah, really. Your problems with November.
November, December, and January, winter.
Right.
Okay. Is there any other topics on this that are completely irrelevant to weddings?
Oh, there's plenty of things completely irrelevant. But we'll work it out. So in case people are watching this,
can you have coffee before this starts?
I put that coffee over there, right? Because otherwise I'll just be constantly drinking it.
Okay.
Because I'm bad and I shouldn't be talking about it. Right.
No.
So in case people are watching this and they're kind of like going, I'm done with COVID, or I went through all these podcasts last year. This year is slightly different, but high level what we're going to touch on is there is a sentiment change this year, and we'll talk about what that kind of means and how that kind of help to anticipate things when we're trying to guess what's going to happen next month or the month after or whatever. You've mentioned that at what level does this happen, or do I do this, or does this happen at a wedding? So we'll probably talk a bit about what the different levels and what happens. I just threw a few
stories up and I got the biggest feedback I ever did on DMs, because it was just, I think nobody was looking at it in, we have to be in level 1 for this to happen, we have to be in level 2 for this to happen. They were just looking at the new overall, I want 50.
Yeah,
but they weren't relating 50 to
what the restrictions might be
overall, because we need to be in an overall sense.
And I think particularly if you're new to it, I think people who maybe were in it last year, they kind of know the threat of extra restrictions. But if you're new to it, you probably don't know that there are more restrictions. And just to get familiar with those.
And the same questions are being asked over and over. And sometimes I kind of get a little bit impatient then, but then I have to remind myself that we're living this now for nearly a year. Some people have literally just been thrown into it. And I was actually, because I was thinking this as well when we were doing the podcast, and it's all COVID, but that is life at the moment. And I was looking at like the postponements and how many postponements we actually ended up doing last year. And it ended up being like 76 postponements we did last year.
Yeah.
So 76 people, 76 emotions, 76 date changes. But then I was looking, right, well, because this January felt heavy on postponements, but I didn't realise how heavy it was. Yeah. So there was we did over the last 5 weeks, 30 postponements.
Wow, okay.
Now I knew I was getting through them, and maybe I'm just a bit more used to it.
And maybe they weren't as questioning, they were familiar with the process.
Exactly. Now some people they were last year.
Yeah.
They've come into this year, they've looked at it and they've thought, no, this is not what my expectation, and I want to talk about what your wedding expectations are as well, because everyone has different expectations, and it's okay to have an expectation of, I'm alright with 5, and if there's no live music, I'm okay with that.
Yep.
5, 25. Or I'm not getting married out of 100 plus people, there has to be a full party, and there's nothing wrong with that either. So everybody's talking in general terms about I'm going to go ahead with my wedding, but everyone's expectations for their wedding are so different, and that's okay as well. And I think it's getting a little bit hostile online. I've stopped doing on social media as much as I can, because people are getting a little bit kind of ratty.
Okay.
And I don't like it. I don't like that at all. No.
Okay. We can chat about that as well. So we'll talk about, there will be at what level does what happen.
So sorry, my 30 postponements this year. So I'm sorry, because I went away from it. So it was, and then it kind of triggered with me. That's a majority, some of them were second postponements.
Yeah, they would be, yeah.
But the majority of them were actually, this is our first time postponing. We've never experienced this before, and we really didn't think, being 2021 couples, that we would have to deal with it. Yeah. So then it did kind of register with me that yes, we're so sick of this now, because we're living it, but some people are brand new to it. So I think it's okay to continue throwing tips out there, continue being helpful, continue just with the COVID conversation, because to be honest with you, I have nothing else to talk about.
Well, that was I was ready to go with this on Monday, and then today I was like, do we have to talk about COVID again, and do we have to do it? And can we not just kind of keep our mouth shut for another 6 or 12 months and just come back when it's ready to start again?
It would be easier, but then we would disappear off the face of the earth. It was like I said, I actually said on Instagram the last day, because we only have 2 weddings in the next 9 weeks. So if the next 9 weeks,
if they happen,
one is very, very soon, so that will happen. One will possibly happen in March, and then it's mid-April. And I kind of just threw out there kind of saying it's going to be in the next 9 weeks, we've got 2 weddings. So it's going to be me sitting on my desk, walking on a beach, talking about COVID. There's nothing exciting, here's us behind the scenes at a wedding going to be happening. And loads of people misunderstood me and thought I was going to go missing for the next 9 weeks and just completely switch off. But it was nice to see that people would have missed us. So we're not allowed to switch off.
We're not allowed to switch off. Okay.
Yeah.
And the other one is predictions. So the predictions of the 1 month plus. And then of surprise news of there will
You're
be
pregnant.
No, I'm pregnant. Woohoo!
Something to do.
It's a COVID miracle. There will be a new framework this year. So no matter how
Who told you that? Did you just make this up?
No. There's a story to how we kind of twigged it.
Who are we? You're like little secret society,
little secret
is it?
society of messers. The sentiment change. Starting there, okay, just so people understand. So before Christmas, the kind of...
And when you say sentiment change, do you mean like the sentimental side of things, or what do you mean by that?
Sentiments towards things.
Okay.
So
because that's what I'm thinking you mean, but I'm afraid I'm misunderstanding you.
No.
Okay.
So particularly going from the Taoiseach down, or just government in general, it was basically an approach of suppress and reopen. Was kind of like end of 2020.
Oh, they were proud of themselves coming out and telling us that's what they were doing. Yeah.
And there was tolerance for lobbying, and there was trying to keep people and appease business sectors in some way as much as they could. It was kind of like give people a chance, give sectors a chance type thing. So there was a bit of tolerance and a bit of playing going on there. The sentiment change, and we probably all hear the words, but he's using the words now, prolonged suppression. Yeah. And he's using cautious and conservative. They're being very kind of, this is going to be slow and steady, more so than what it would have been previously. So why that's important is, whereas it's kind of like, it's cute whore politics. They're cute whores, right? So, like, the mistake that they made in December, he deflected and kind of, he was denying the fact that the reason why we're in the situation now was because of the first 3 weeks in December.
Oh, it was the English variant's fault. All the English variant's fault. That's all he could say over and over and over. The variant. Yeah.
Exactly. So he did that for about 2 or 3 weeks, and then say in the 3rd or 4th week in January, they then admitted that it was kind of the start of December, and we shouldn't have opened up the way we did, and we won't be making that mistake again. So it's like, we distract you for 3 weeks, so that if they had admitted that at the first week in January, it would have been like off with their heads type thing. So they distract you to an extent, and then it's a slow admission. And why that matters going forward is like with the quarantine at the moment. So it's kind of like, we're going to do quarantine, but then they throw out half measures like, oh sure, you can quarantine at home. Or
unless you're going from South Africa, we'll throw in a hotel.
And there's all sorts of confusion. Well, if I'm coming from that country or this country or whatever, and why that matters going forward is they use that same approach going forward. So they've mentioned that they're going to do quarantine, and what you might find over the next 2, 3, 4 months is that they sneak in stronger and stronger rules.
Travel rules. Yeah.
So that matters particularly in weddings to people who are coming from abroad.
I was shocked at how many international couples we actually had. Like, you know the way a lot of the time, like, somebody will research you, they'll send you an email, you'll have a few chats back and forth, and they'll go, great, like, I've seen you on Instagram, I love your work, I'm going to book you, and they book you. And you don't, like, they might give you an address of where they live, but I don't take too much notice either, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I was shocked at the amount of couples that they're either Irish, living abroad, like permanently, or they actually are American, or they are Canadian, and they come to Ireland to get married. I had no idea how many of our couples did not live in Ireland, or their siblings don't live in Ireland, or their parents don't live in Ireland, and just the whole trying to go ahead with a wedding, especially in the first half of 2021, is near to impossible, if not impossible, unless you have a serious amount of time in your hands when it comes to travel, quarantine, time for the wedding, go back, quarantine, back to life. It's a massive section of your life to take up for one day, because it is one day. And it's an amazing day.
It is one day,
but it's one day.
But when family's travelling back, it's kind of like, well, you're home for, say, 3 to 4 weeks. Sometimes people come home a week or 2 beforehand, get everything ready, and then they enjoy themselves.
It's on the other side as well, then, whatever the quarantine rules are on your side.
In terms of quarantine, definitely.
Yeah.
So if you were planning to come back for 3 or 4 weeks, you could be talking nearly up to 8 weeks in terms of taking up all your time.
And I think when they were talking they were kind of just talking kind of casually questions and answers about like international travel and, you know, this summer, and then there was a mention of like travel come Christmas 2021. And I think when there was kind of like, it wasn't a definite no, but there was no way somebody was saying, yes, you can travel Christmas 2021. That I think for a lot of couples kind of really drove it home for them that this is not going to be a quarantine travel issue for the first 4, 5, 6 months of the year. It's 2021. We are in a travel restriction type of environment. Yeah,
I suppose if we take the example of they allowed pubs and hospitality to open up kind of wildly in December 2020.
Remember that first weekend in December? We were out doing weddings. And we came home after doing 3 of them going, quick, hose ourselves down. How do we not have COVID after that? No, it actually wasn't the weddings. Like, the weddings were so well behaved. Yeah. They followed the rules. What was going on around the rest of the venue that we were like,
It was the wet pub lobbies.
Everyone was having so much fun. They were so drunk.
Yeah.
But we came away after that weekend going, we're in serious trouble.
We knew,
This is the first week in December. We are in serious trouble. Say goodbye to the first half of next year.
Okay.
We knew that.
So, if you take the approach of the way they open that up and give everyone a chance, they kind of already teed up that summer, we're not going to give you a chance to go on a holiday. There was a big culture last summer where basically it was actually within Europe too, well, we need to help out the hospitality sector in Europe and basically allow people to do that, and then we can lock down. And that created a second wave in continental Europe. And then in terms of, say, so in summer 2021, they're not going to open up the way they did last summer. And then in December 2021, they're probably not going to allow travel to happen the way they allowed the Christmas party in 2020. Yeah. So that's just a sentiment kind of change to notice the way they're talking. So instead
of, there was 1,000 deaths in January.
Yeah.
Like that was the outcome of, let's let everybody have Christmas for a full month. There's a cat coming through a door behind you.
Hello, Bus.
I was getting all emotional there now.
Good. Cat stopped you from getting emotional. We'll leave Cat for the moment.
She's fine. She's the good one. She's not the one that gets me.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that's for travel. So just be aware of that. And if you were to apply that kind of same attitude to other sectors, there's a slower attitude to give them a chance, to give a particular sector a chance.
Because there was a lot of talk of we're in level 5, and sure, they might jump to level 3. We might go straight from level 5 to level 3, but they've pretty much told us that don't expect that. We're not going to accelerate reopening.
Yeah.
Which I'm okay with, because if it fixes it, well, not fixes it, because I know there's no actual fix, but if it gets us in a better situation, then happy days.
That's what it was. We'll get on to predictions later on.
Oh.
That's pretty brave now. The cat has taken up the highest perch.
She's sitting in between the cameras. Hang on.
She's between cameras, checking out the audio system.
Who's? Sorry, what was the song? It was on a timer. There you go. It's still timing.
What are we on? We're grand. We'll get this point, this little thing. Right, so the first shock. Right.
Oh God. Will they cry? Will I be happy? What emotion is this going to cause?
Okay, so say May, June, July, August, right?
Yeah.
If I was to say to you, because I was looking at this guy.
Remember now, it's not just me, you're saying it to me.
Right.
It's like,
I know. Looking at this guy in the framework, I was kind of like going again. What was their original plan with kind of level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4?
You have your props
right?
today. Yeah.
Props.
Very good. Yeah.
It's a dirty map. Might open it up later for a bit of crack. But if I said to you, right, May, June, July, August, in terms of the pubs opening.
Being the summer months.
May,
June, July and August.
June, July, August, right, being summer. Okay. If I said to you that pubs would only be outdoors and you could only get your drinks and your food and stuff outdoors, sitting in the benches, and there was no indoor dining, there was no indoor drinking. Gonna have to get her, aren't I?
You are.
Okay.
She's making too much noise. Don't know. Bad puss. Put her into Amy.
Based on the sentiment change and based on kind of the atmosphere at the moment, if I said that to you, would you be too shocked?
No.
No.
No, I actually wouldn't be. I've come to terms with the whole situation of this year, I think.
Yeah.
It took me 31 days in January, but I did. No, I had. Like, I'm like, I think where we were always, like, from the very beginning of this, when we realised the severity of it, everything, we were very much on the side of, like, health comes first. And, like, we were very much, like, I remember watching, I think Leo was still Taoiseach, and they decided to, or was it just when Micheál started, when they decided to accelerate. We were doing really, really well last summer, and they jumped.
There was a handover,
I think it was, they weren't even call levels then, they were like call
phases. This is the first framework. We'll talk about that later.
They jumped a couple of phases, and I remember probably all of Ireland was probably thrilled. Like, it meant that, we were going back to restaurants, there was shops open, we were moving all over the country, and the two of us sat on the couch disgusted, like absolutely bloody disgusted, which makes no sense because like we want our couples to have the day that they want to have and everything, but we really are like 1,000 people died in January.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to get my head around that, and that was because of December.
Yep.
Purely because we just went out and had a bit of crack. My mind doesn't work that way that I'm like, it was worth it.
Yeah.
Sure, we have a great Christmas.
It's a good payoff, yeah.
It was lovely. So I'm okay with that.
But do you think that wouldn't shock you if that was the rule? Would that shock you too much?
It wouldn't shock me, but it'll shock the majority of people, I think.
Okay.
It really will.
Grant,
I also live with you, and you're constantly doom and gloom in my face as well about so-and-so said just said this and so-and-so just said that. This is going to happen.
Realistic and honest and frank. So keep that in mind for later on for the predictions, okay?
Okay.
So
I threw some predictions out there on Instagram the last day, just kind of off the cuff, and I didn't mean to be so honest, and I'm sure I probably upset a couple of people, but a lot of people then were also saying thank you for being honest and laying it out there, because I've been in contact with this part of the venue, or there's another supplier, and I'm getting married in May, and my expectation is at least 50 people, live music and no curfew. And you're kind of going, well, like if that's the case, then that's wonderful. But think about what needs to happen to be in that situation.
Yeah.
It's a massive, dramatic, like positive move forward. But there's not enough time.
Yeah. So like there's a race to 25. I think everybody wants to get 25. Even suppliers want to get 25.
More and more couples though are back on the whole thing of 25 is a positive number.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we are at 6 at the moment. Well, 8 if you want to.
So there's a race to 25, but it's more like it's a slow walk is really what it's going to be, so that people understand that.
Yeah.
Okay, so that I'm not talking so much, and that we kind of get into other stuff before we get into kind of just COVID predictions and kind of doom and gloom. At what level, right? So in terms of guidelines.
Okay.
So particularly people who are new. So masks. So the innocent question is, at what level do I wear masks?
I did say the last day that I think masks will be the last thing to go.
Yeah.
Because realistically, they are our shield of, like, and we have been at weddings over, I won't say the period of time, but we've come away without COVID. Other people at the wedding did not come away. They had COVID. Now, they picked up COVID at the wedding. They picked up COVID the couple of days beforehand, the couple of days afterwards, but they were more active around other people because it was around the time of their wedding. And this is a level 5. This is being really, really cautious with less people. And there is still people picking up COVID from, not saying names or anything. And the person, they know, she's completely fine with me saying this, like she knows who I'm talking about.
But there's nothing wrong with getting COVID. We're probably, like the attitude last year, we'll all get it at some stage. But you will get it, and it's okay to get it because it's really easy to get it. It's
small little things you do on wedding day. Like, it's the same thing when you go to a shop. Like, if you just don't take your mask off, there's a higher chance of you not picking it up. If you, try and keep your distance a little bit from people, you may not pick it up. Try and keep your close contacts down. Like, all these little things that they're harping on about. And I'm sick of them saying it to us. They ask Neffit a question and their answer is pretty much the same to every question. And it's just repeating the
basic safety
measures. But then when you come away from a situation yourself, you find other people did actually contract COVID and you didn't, because you just did one or two tiny little things.
You got lucky. You just missed it.
Because you were a supplier rather than a guest. Then it really kind of makes you think, okay, actually they're right to repeat themselves over and over, because it does actually make a difference.
Yeah, because I mean, if we were in more of a social setting ourselves, we would be more relaxed than if we were out working on a wedding day.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
But in general, so masks. So someone who doesn't know, really, whatever the level is, there will probably be masks.
Yeah. When it comes to being at a venue, the venue will I know we talked about this, right? Just these are 3 things I wanted to touch on when it comes to masks. Right? The venue itself, arriving, moving around, going to the bathroom, unless you're actually sitting in your designated seat, you're wearing a mask. Now, if you're outdoors and you're getting, say, a family photo, like, again, we as photographers will never ask an individual to remove a mask. If someone wants to stand in a family photo, to wearing a mask so they're actually present, and they're not comfortable taking it off, let them leave it on. Majority of people will take them off. There's a couple of minutes. Chances are you're outside. You're a close family bubble anyway.
Yeah.
You take a photograph and that's fine. There's a couple of different situations when it comes to masks, and different places have different rules. And the reason I'm bringing this up is so the registry office.
Yep.
We've been in the registry office recently a few times, and they are very, very strict when it comes to mask wearing. Every individual in the room needs to put the mask on and leave the mask on, and this includes the couple. So you are standing there, together, putting rings on, exchanging vows with the mask on. It does not come off.
And so people understand this. This is
Yeah.
the HSE registry
Yeah.
office. So that it's
Yeah.
the HSE are running that registry office, so that we're talking
They are the
specifically about
HSE,
that.
so to be fair, I see where they're coming from.
Yeah.
There is other organisations then that you can hire to actually, to be your solemnizer, your celebrant, like spiritual ceremonies and a couple of other places like that. All the guests will be expected to wear a mask. You as a couple, I know every solemnizer has their own rules, but the majority of them are allowing the couple to remove the mask for those key moments.
Like the vows, rings, kiss.
Exactly. Now, the HSE, right, and the civil ceremonies, that's the first one I talked about. That's in the registry office. Masks stay on; they're not to be removed. I've also done one recently where the HSE came out to a location.
Yep.
Which you can do as well. You can ask them, instead of going into the registry office, if your venue's open, they can come to your venue and they can legally marry you there and then. So a member from the HSE came out, everyone wore masks, but they were allowed to remove the mask for a first kiss. They were allowed to remove a mask when they were sitting, signing the register for a photograph, and then everything went back on again, but like moving around.
And particularly when they're off-site, they're probably in a room that has more space.
That's
and they can stand way back. Whereas if they're in the HSE registry office, it might be a tighter room.
Yeah, like the registry office in Cork, for example, and the venue I was in recently, the room was probably double the size.
Yeah, exactly.
So and these are all things. So just because, and I've said this before, just because you've seen online someone's put up a picture and they're wearing a mask or they're not wearing a mask, or it's happened last week or last month, every single situation is different when it comes to masks. It'll be as per the solemnizer, the organisation actually marrying you, the environment you're in, the venue, the location. These are all different things. Or your own, like actually we as a couple don't want to take them off because we're around other family members.
Yeah, the couple themselves make a decision.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
So, I mean, just because one person comes on and gives their example of their wedding, don't expect yours to be exactly the same. Like, the way you used to always say, no two weddings are the same.
Yep.
This could not be more true when it comes to actually getting married in a COVID environment. No two weddings are the same at all. Like, we've done a good few weddings, a few weddings since this all started off throughout 2020 and into 2021. And we've never gone to a day where the rules have been the same.
Yeah.
The restrictions have been the same. People's,
or the level of mask wearing was the same.
Different every single time. So it's just something to
So if you're interested in masks and you know nothing about it,
Yeah.
ask your venue what their mask policy is.
Yeah.
In general, ask them what their policy is.
Yeah.
Ask your solemnizer or your priest or whoever it is what their rules are. Any venue or anyone who's in charge of a location or charge of an action that's happening within your wedding day, ask them what their rules are or what their policies are.
Exactly.
Social distancing. So in general, like the hotels originally they've guidelines that they apply, and depending on the room, the whole 2 meter, 1 meter rule. But in general, social distancing.
Most of them have been keeping it to tables of 6 people, at least a metre between the chairs, and then at least 2 metres between each table. But they can, because they've got these big ballrooms and these big banqueting areas that have been made for 120, 200 people, and you're putting 25 people in there. And it actually, you can see people walk in, and you can see the expression on their face. They suddenly feel comfortable that they've got their little designated space, and there's no one in their area. There's no one getting in their bubble. Yeah. It's true though, because when someone encroaches on your space, I'm desperate now. I got the shop and I'm like, get away.
and that about drinks receptions, say for instance, people tend to get into their own little bubbles, but you can see certain people they're making sure they have their distance, and they're still interacting,
like,
they're still chatting away.
I've seen people like, in the drinks reception, they're not taking their mask off. They're being careful. And I've seen them like sneakily kind of like lift it and kind of tuck a bit of a scone underneath it and then put it back on to chew it, because that's their level of comfort.
They have a higher tolerance.
But don't get annoyed at that person either, because I have seen people kind of a little bit impatient with family members or other guests when it comes to getting in a photograph and not wanting to take a mask off, or being around a drinks reception even when you're sitting and not taking your mask off. I've seen guests say to other guests, take that off for the photo, or take that off, or whatever. And the person, twice the person said no.
Yeah.
And then there's been a couple of times where they kind of felt pressured they should take it off. So just...
Don't put that. You shouldn't put that on someone.
Put that on someone.
Yeah.
But it's just it's surprising watching how other people kind of in those situations react, or it's I don't want to get into it too much. But
but in terms of, so again, someone who's kind of like, what's the kind of atmosphere, what's the feel for it is. People do pod up together kind of, and someone who is ultra cautious, and it might be that they're trying to protect everybody else, or they're trying to protect someone, say, within their own private bubble. They kind of they still interact with people, but they're just cautious and taking an approach. So just that you're aware.
It will get easier as the year goes on. We're like in the winter, spring months now, where like going outside for drinks reception is an absolute no-go. It's too cold even if it's dry. But as the year goes on and we get into like April and May and on to June, drinks receptions will be back outside hopefully. So you've got the fresh air and you've got that open space. It'll just make people a bit more comfortable before they go into a dining situation.
Okay. Curfews and timing in general again. So if someone's not familiar at all, so that they're aware, technically there is a curfew in place. You got to check with your venue.
I think curfew will be around for a while, do you? I don't see them letting people just kind of go party into the night, drink excessively, go for it.
Not in the short term. No, I don't think it's gonna be.
I think masks and curfew could be the last two things to be lifted.
Okay.
They were like, other than number restrictions, they were the first two things to be brought in, because there was curfews and because I remember when we were talking about timing a day.
Yep.
Bands were still allowed, live music was still allowed, but there was a curfew, and we were trying to help people in, like if you were to time your day and still allow enough time for your band to perform, you needed to perform that bit of time for that party. And then it all changed, and suddenly you've got ample amounts of time on your wedding day. Okay. But I think they were the first two things that came in, and they'll be the last two things to go out.
Okay. Yeah. So particularly with in terms of people, if they're trying to understand the curfew and how it operates, check with your venue. Ask them what the windows are. Say, what's your curfew in terms of when you stop serving? Because there's everyone has a different wind down policy. We won't get into specific examples, but everyone has a different wind down policy. They have a specific window, say, for entertainment, if entertainment's permitted. They have a specific window for, say, speeches or dining or whatever. So venues have tried to put in place the Fáilte Ireland guidelines, and they've got a set structure in terms of timing that they think they have to hit in order to give you what they can. So check with your venue in terms of timing.
But I think if you're getting married, say in the summer or autumn of this year, there's no harm in having an early ceremony. Plan it on the basis that worst case scenario there's still a curfew in place, but you can have a band kind of thing, hopefully, whenever that does happen again. But like if you plan an early ceremony, you can fit all the things in, where if you do the whole summer weddings and 3 p.m. ceremonies became a thing, if you try to have a wedding ceremony at 3 and be finished by 11:30, you're giving yourself 7.5 hours of a wedding day
to do everything.
Which is nothing, absolutely nothing. So there's no harm in planning your day early, and if you don't have a curfew, then you just have a nice long party. There's no, if that's better than rushing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the next kind of big thing about and I have to say that they're guidelines, right? So the ones that we've just spoke about, say masks, social distancing, dancing. Actually, we skipped over dancing, did we?
Well, there's no dancing at the moment.
There's no dancing at the moment, right? So dancing's dancing. You'll know when there's dancing technically permitted. And curfew. They're kind of a given, right? But what happened was last year when they brought in level 3+, the plus was the first time we heard of actually they're starting to name certain service providers and actually say whether they're permitted or not permitted. Okay, so that people understand the hierarchy, because you're going to hear people saying they're guidelines, they're not law. You're going to hear words like venues policies and whatnot. So how the structure there is basically the government kind of set the high level restrictions and the high level rules. Each sector then has a body that implements or puts in place operational guidelines. So Fáilte Ireland does it for hospitality, and they've set out the guidelines. If they're unsure about certain things, they go back to the Department of Taoiseach and they ask them questions, and then they're putting in those rules. And that's when this kind of happened of...
they do say, as per the Taoiseach's office, this is the following
this is what
thing.
it is.
Yeah.
So their guidelines, so that everyone knows their guidelines, and then venues are supposed to follow those guidelines. The venues can put in place their own policy. So that's why we say check in with the venue what their policy is.
And when we say that every venue has a different policy when it comes to dancing, music, curfews, everything, every venue has a different policy, and it is extremes between them.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say any more,
time.
but that's the situation. Yeah.
Okay, so there was a bit of a shock when they brought in those rules, and...
It was because we kind of got no warning. We all kind of found out about it because we happened to go on to Fáilte Ireland, and it was like, hang on a second, where did this come from? Where did this page come from? Yeah.
But at least, so they started naming service providers, but now they've tightened that up to where they've only named very specific ones, and they're letting the level of restrictions in general dictate it. So in terms of the hair and makeup kind of question,
they're now linked with the salons.
But if the hair, so it was strange that the hair, the salons were open, say, and for some reason they decided to ban for a period of time in the weddings. That's gone now.
Mistakes
that
happen along the way. Yeah.
But that kind of imbalance in the rules is gone. So if the hair and the salons are open in general, the hair and makeup's permitted.
Level 3. The salons reopen.
Yes.
So we need to be in level 3 for you to have hair and makeup the morning of your wedding. Now, people bend the rules all the time, but if you're following guidelines, you need to be in level 3 for hair and makeup to be at your wedding.
Yeah. So the new person who's asking the question of what level can I have my hair and makeup is level 3 onwards.
Yeah. Unless they change
unless they kind of make that silly imbalance again.
Yeah.
So then live music and novelty acts seem to be in succession, because the wording of novelty acts, I really think that was kind of to say, if someone says, well, technically I'm not live music, I'm singing, I'm doing an act, I'm doing a performance.
Magicians and hypnotists
and singing waiters and everything like that.
Fire dancers and all sorts you can have at your wedding. Yeah.
So at the moment, and they've kind of restricted those, so at level 5, level 4, we've seen that they haven't been permitted. Level 3 is a question in terms of it was level 3 plus. And this is my bit of give. This is my bit of give in terms of kind of, I know the bands are pushing hard, and we kind of worked out an opinion of, if you've kind of spent a day with 25 people for 10 hours, you've really kind of, you're in that 25 people bubble. The difference between dancing and not dancing at the end of the day, we couldn't really justify that in terms of, we really felt that
it's in that room.
From the interactions that we've seen throughout the day, the morning, the ceremony, the receptions, the dinner, and
there's nothing wrong with those interactions. It's just people being human and their family, because 25 is family.
So to an extent, we kind of think, like, if you're having a 25 wedding, like,
band makes no difference.
Band makes no difference. It's there. If it's there,
it makes no difference to whether or not it's going to be a problem. It makes a difference to the atmosphere of the day. I don't mean it in that sense. Yeah.
Now, the reason, the logic behind it in terms of the public health guidelines is they're expecting, if your whole 25 people were super cautious throughout the whole day, and you are kind of masks to the max,
But you can't mask yourself and eat up, can you?
No. So like, if you're super cautious, then you could say, well, you'll totally, your inhibitions kind of become lower, and you're drinking and dancing, and then you were good to a certain point, and then you were kind of, your risk kind of increased at the end of the day. That's the reason why the public health are saying that.
Yeah. I get the reason.
But from what we see is, that's not actually what's happening in weddings.
It's more risky not to have a band, because you're still going to consume alcohol, and you're still going to get a little bit more kind of comfortable in your environment. So instead of having a dance floor to go and move around on, you're now going over and sitting right next to someone to have a chat with them.
There you go. There's a new angle the bands can take.
I'm telling you. It is though, because think about it. You're not going to stay in your designated table of 6 people a metre away from someone, having a few drinks. You're going to go from table to table. You're going to swap chairs. You're going to sit down and chat, because that's all you have to do, because there is no dancing. You're actually spaced out more in a big banqueting room, 25 of you, band playing, having a dance.
Okay.
There you go.
That reminds me of this thing.
There. What is that?
This framework thing, right?
Where did you get this?
This came in the post, right? And everybody went like this.
And then went online and started asking questions.
And then Michal just started, actually, we're going to have level 3 plus, and then we're going to have level 4 minus.
I think you said we were on level 8 at one stage. There was so many different levels.
There was no, I counted 9 levels. At one stage I had 8 levels, and then he actually brought out another one. So at that, right?
Yeah.
Actually, at level 2, dance floors are permitted technically, right?
Is that what it says?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
But the dance floor has to be monitored.
Oh, we're back to
This was back when we were joking with, is someone going to have a 2-meter stick on the dance floor and kind of whack people? So technically, in this thing, right?
Yeah.
Level 2, 50 people was like, there wasn't a caveat on live dancing.
Was that brought out pre, like, the Default Ireland additional guidelines?
Yeah, so level 3 is in there, and there was kind of level 3 plus of basically, and then the kind of weddings. Well, actually, we're going to tailor that back a little bit and kind of throw in a few extras.
Yeah.
So we're kind of hoping, right? So if you're new to this and you don't know, you've got to check in with your venue. Is the best way we can say it is check in with your venue as to what your policy is. So if at some stage we get to 25 people at 25 guests permitted at a wedding, check in what the policy is in terms of music and novelty acts.
Yeah.
That's all we can say. But from level 2 onwards, so that you're aware of what level 2 is actually kind of, and this is probably in terms of predictions and what I was getting
Level 2 is
into.
in a really good situation.
Level 2 is a really good situation.
We only hit it once last year in August.
Yeah. So 50 guests. Well, actually, it's going to flip back to 50 people is technically. So they actually changed. Like I checked up gov.ie, right? So it flips from being guests to 50 people.
There's just someone there like changing the word people to guests over and over just to annoy.
Let's not get bogged down on that, right? But it's 50. Let's say it's 50 at a wedding, right?
Yeah.
Actually, outside of weddings, right? So it's also 50 in venues that can cope with 50 within social distancing. So this is in terms of kind of
like entertainment
and theatre. And then there's also larger venues are allowed permitted 100. So there was like huge venues down in Kerry that were totally chancing their arm.
Yeah,
Chancing their indoor venues that if you've technically got enough room, say you could normally hold 500 or 600 people in a big venue that maybe you could do music in or something like that. Technically, you could get 100 people in there at level 2.
As long as they were all 2 meters apart, is it?
An outdoor, say a big stadium, a football stadium, it's 500. So we can. So this is level 2. So in terms of getting to 50 weddings, so get it into your head. Do you think that they're going to let 500 people into a football stadium?
Yeah.
So this is what level 2 is. So
do you think they're going to revise some of this though with the new variants? Because was this not based on the original strain of COVID and how it reacts and how contagious it is and how it contracts between people, and now like I know the UK one is being so much 70% more contagious is what they're saying, whether that's true or not. Like, are they just going to like say, right, we put this in place, we're just going to follow it throughout the year, or will they come out with new, like, because they have like stumped us throughout all last year. We thought we knew where we were going. We kind of had it in our heads, and then suddenly they come out and made an announcement, and they threw the industry like literally into a spiral because it was just like, was not expecting that.
In terms of the new framework, I think they're going to use this framework up to a certain point, and then I'll get into it later where we think there's going to be a new framework, and basically it's to do with when vaccinations get to a certain point, they're going to bring out a new framework.
Yeah.
In terms of predictions, right? So we've talked earlier about kind of the race to 25.
Yeah.
It's going to be slower. So in terms of, as opposed to bringing out a new framework that's kind of much more cautious to say about variants, I think everything's just going to be really slow. So again, prolonged and cautious and conservative. They're the hints of this is going to be slow. And we kind of know that already. So for instance, the good thing I suppose in January is we didn't have to keep doing videos because they didn't keep changing the rules. They let it run for a whole month. Hey.
We got a month off podcasts.
So, and then up until the 5th of March, it's 5 weeks. So they're leaving at a level 5 for another 5 weeks. In terms of predictions, right? So in terms of kind of milestones in March is obviously Paddy's Day. And then the next milestone is April is Easter. And the week after Easter is kind of the end of the school holiday for Easter's. So when we were kind of trying to work out kind of when will they loosen things up a little bit. So that people are kind of aware on the extreme of things, we don't think hospitality is going to be loosened up before the Easter break because they're not going to let everybody go
the
on holidays.
staycations will be epic. Wouldn't matter if you can just go 10k from your house, they'd find a hotel.
Yeah, and to the same sense that they don't want people travelling, they're probably not going to want everybody rushing out to the restaurants or rushing out to the bars. So that's in terms of that. In terms of you were trying to guess of when I can get my hair cut, you're kind of like saying this the end of March, because after Paddy's Day, maybe a bit of retail.
They're going to open the salons for my birthday. It's going to be great. Yeah, I'm really excited.
But that even seems now a little more slower, that they're not going to rush into that.
And they have said that we're not skipping levels. So you got to remember, like for weddings, level 4 and level 5, there's no difference.
Pretty much the same.
There's no difference. It's 6 guests, the couple. Venues are pretty much closed unless they're catering essential workers and still, taking their micro weddings. But, we've got up on the 5th of March in level 5. We'll then go to level 4. We don't know how long we'll be in level 4 for, but it'll definitely be not after Paddy's Day, because they're not going to let us go mad.
Yeah.
Because we're Irish and we just tend to go out and party.
The best tweet I've seen in a while is the ideal situation is we would all get vaccinated this week.
Right.
So that for Paddy's Day, we could have the ultimate session.
Okay, good. Parades, everything. Just go mad.
Okay, so we're in level 5. Right, we're in level 5 until the end of February. So we're doing this podcast at the start of February. Okay, for the whole, you've 5 weeks up to the 5th of March. The next kind of deadline, or the next kind of trying to anticipate when the next kind of push out is going to be. It's going to be till the 9th of April, which is just Easter. Yeah. And there's still another week of kind of the midterm break. Yeah. We know that our kids are all off school, so. For all of March, it's going to be level 4, right?
Yeah.
For that kind of the next one after that, so on the 9th of April.
And this is crystal ball predictions.
This is
by common sense as well, though, because they have been more open with us with what's going to happen further out, whereas before it was very much week to week. We won't tell you.
Yeah.
It's a surprise. Now they're very much coming out saying it's going to be slow. We're not going to skip levels. You know what it is for the next 5 weeks. You know then we're going to level 4. So you can actually now sit here and go, this is what it's going to look like for the next 2 or 3 months. Yeah.
So in April, the reason I don't think they're going to say go from level 4 to level 3 is purely Easter. Okay, so that's my only logic, right?
Yeah, but after Easter, I'd say they will.
After it. So they might pick a date of after Easter that they say, then we're going to go to level 3. Yeah. But what might happen is a level 4 minus. So it could be level 4, right? But they start to let certain retail open up. This is where the hairdressers and stuff like that, so that people can see.
And they did say that they would be adjusted levels as well. Okay. I think they will open non-essential retail before the levels usually would dictate.
So that adjusted level, I don't think they're going to be too excited, say, about funerals and weddings, pushing them back to 25.
No, there's been too much evidence of clusters come out of them, especially when it comes to funerals.
Okay, so again, this is just a guess. So
which kind of lines up the way our calendar looks at the moment, because we have pretty much nothing going on until mid-April, and I think this is the way people are thinking.
Well, people can see, they can see
it. They might have their 25 mid-April.
Yeah.
But if anybody's aiming for a 50-person wedding, end of March, beginning of April, it's level 2, lads. Realistically, the timeline, it doesn't work.
To get to level 2 is really hard, based on the fact that they said they're going to go slowly. Yeah. And there's just a different sentiment out there. Yeah. So the 7th of May, again, it's after a bank holiday, right, at the start of May.
Okay.
That's the earliest I think we can get to level 3. Unless there's kind of a level 4 minus.
Oh no, I disagree now. I think we'll be in level 3 mid-April. I think the minute Easter's over, they'll go straight to level 3.
Yeah, if they change, if they kind of do either they'll do say
we'll get at least
at the end of March they could kind of do a longer. They could do like a 6-week level 4 plus.
Yeah.
Or they could either do at the start of April. They could come out and say, actually in 2 weeks' time we're gonna do this or this. So we're grand. If it's not the end of April, that they loosen it up based on kind of just going month.
In and around those few weeks, we should.
If they go mid-April and grand, they give us a bit more. Brilliant.
Seems like so far away.
I know. So and it is. So we've all of April, all of March, all of February, all of March, and then
hopefully
either 2 weeks in April or the whole of April. So then you get to level 3. So level 3 in that kind of framework that I threw away there is kind of it's outdoor pubs, outdoor food.
Yeah.
20, like to whatever your kind of your social distancing space that you have.
Yeah.
So
But
they'll
there's
open
more
up.
going on. Like
Right.
there's activities outside of your household
Yeah.
happening.
So people have that in their head. That's what's
Yeah.
going on in terms of pubs and restaurants. For weddings, it's 25 guests. How long that lasts or how cautious they are based on whatever next variant comes along, whatever is going on with international travel.
It depends on the virus. It depends on if anything else develops, if anything more serious comes along, if we get on top of it faster than we thought we would. Like, I don't think they're going to go mad if we got on top of it, but I think that they won't need to stretch it out for like 6-week periods of levels. They might do 3 or 4 week periods of levels because we're at a low number, but it needs to stay at the low number. You're
behaving of the mentality of last summer where, sure, we can race through the phases at the end and get excited and then bang into another wave.
Phases. They skipped a whole phase. That's what happened last time. Yeah.
Okay, so if we're ultra positive, right, let's say you could have level 3 from sometime in late April to all of May, okay? And let's say, this is being super positive, right? May, level 3. June is your only chance, say, for level 2. And that's been ultra kind of positive, right?
Calendar is bursting at the seams in June.
June, right? So that's like trying to guess what they're going to do is kind of like, that's the earliest I can see level 2. Okay.
But I think then come June, though, wouldn't it be amazing to have 50 guests, a band, and like just like to be able to move around and like the things are good. To be in level 2 come June is a really, really positive outcome.
Okay.
From where we just came from.
Oh yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
Brilliant, right?
Yeah.
So then I'll remind you of what we discussed earlier on. So if I told you all summer that pubs weren't allowed, you weren't allowed to go inside a pub, you weren't allowed inside a restaurant. If that happens, then we're not getting to 50 people at a wedding.
Yeah, I don't agree now.
And I don't know,
because I think
or
they'll keep the exception
50
in some way
could be in
weddings.
July or 50 could be in August, depending on how slow they move.
I might not see 50 at all. I still have in the back of my head that they're going to come out with some sort of a cap and go, so this is the cap for 2021, lads.
This is
if you want to get
I wasn't
married.
going to bring up you and your cap, right? But now that you brought it up, right? So the alternative is that...
This doesn't exist. I just want to point out as well. This is just my mind.
People are trying to work this out.
Mad. Yeah.
They could move up the levels, but they're terrified of funerals and weddings.
Yeah.
So if they had kind of, if whatever the level was, level 3 minus, level 2 minus, and the cap was, or the caveat was, weddings and funerals, that actually we're not letting you go above 25. Now, this is just purely so that people kind of have an idea of what's going on in 2021. This is what we're trying to guess.
Yeah.
Now, it's only start of February. At the end of March, we'll be telling you something completely different because things change in COVID land, big time.
Yeah, but I think for summer couples planning, there's nothing wrong with planning for a 50-person wedding. Come the summer, like have your backup 25 guest list just in case, which a lot of people are doing. They're making out their 3 different guest list sizes, and letting people know that you're in that 25. You're in that 50 or you're in that 100.
Okay.
Letting people know kind of as it goes. And I think more people, and give people notice, don't keep it to yourself as well. I think it's good to kind of communicate. So if you are hoping for, like you still have that little glimpse of hope for 100 people, let the 100 people know that like if we're in level 1, you're invited to my wedding and I'd love to have you there.
Yeah, but the likelihood is...
But if we're in level 2, unfortunately, you're not at the wedding, or you are, or you've made the cut for the 25. You're in that 25 person kind of thing. And it kind of gives, you got to remember from your guest side of things as well. So there is a little bit of stress and anxiety when it comes to attending a wedding. Like some people are comfortable doing it and other people aren't. Some people can't wait.
Yeah.
They get to get dressed up and go out and have a wedding. And then other people are terrified that they'll get invited to a wedding. Because they don't want to have to get into saying no because they're just not comfortable going, and everyone has their own level of comfort. So I would let people know that, like, and it'll give them a sense of peace of mind that, I'm only going to be invited to this wedding if we're in level 1 and things are fabulous, things are brilliant, and then it'll give them kind of a sense of, okay, we're not going to be there, and I'm okay with that because I'm actually not comfortable going anyway, kind of thing. But do remember that, and I know there's a lot of couples out there that are aiming for the 100-person wedding in the summer, and there's nothing wrong with having
the hope.
That's the hope, and as I'm saying, everyone has different expectations for their wedding, and no expectation is the wrong expectation. It's just your expectations for your wedding. Like, and I said this on a story the last day. Like, remember that 100 people is level 1. Like to be in level 1, everything's open.
Yeah.
Everything is open.
And
Pubs are open. Like imagine this. Wet pubs are open. You can walk in the door of your local, sit down and order a pint. Level 1. Might even be level 2.
Hang on there now. I see, because I know level
level
2 is 50 people in a pub. It does. It goes to 100.
Yeah.
So level 1 is 100 people in a pub in general.
Can you imagine it? Can you imagine that? So like, that's what level 1 is. That's the extreme case of how good we are. But then there's also the people out there that are, they don't want to cap it at 100. They were planning for a 200, 300 person, the old-fashioned way of doing a wedding, having a lot of people there. But like, and I said this as well, and I think this kind of drove it home for some people the last day was, unless they change the level system, like above 100 people, there's no more need for levels. Like we're outside of it.
It's done. We're finished.
It's done. We're vaccinated. We've control of it. There's no need for regulations. There's no need for restrictions. And the way I kind of put it was, do you see that happening this year? Or do you see that happening this summer or this autumn? So like you have to be realistic about it as well. Like I don't see us being restriction free come summer. Like it's only a few months away.
Completely restriction free.
Completely restriction free where no one is telling you how many people you can invite to your wedding. You can invite 400 people.
Or how many people can come into your house.
Yeah, exactly. And because that's what it is at the moment. No one's allowed in your house.
Yep.
So, and these are the kind of ways to look at it. And you can ask as many people as you want, so I'm getting married in July, like what level will be in, like what will the numbers be? Will there be a live band? No one has the answer. And all they can do is what we're doing now is sit down with a little bit of common sense, going by what's happened before, going by the information we have now, and try and make predictions. And they're only predictions because at any second we could get bad news, or at any second we could get really good news.
So,
what?
Right, just because we have some interesting conversations with some people and we're like, what planet are they on? Right, so you know the way you can have like 50 people at a wedding at level 2, 100 people at a wedding at that. That's, if you're having a wedding, you're allowed to have 50 people in your house, or sorry, in at the wedding in level 2.
Yeah.
If your wedding's at home, technically you're allowed to have 50. But if you're not having a wedding, there is not a license to have 50 people at, say, a summer party, a family party, or whatever. Just putting that out there, per the guidelines, because we have some interesting conversation with people and we're like, you can't do that.
I'll have it at home so I can have a few more.
Level 2 is 6 people in a household. Level 1 is 10 people in a household. Now they've changed that. At one point it was 12 and all this types lark, but technically per the rules that's how low it is. So just because it's you're allowed to have 50 at a wedding doesn't mean you can have a garden party with 50 people in it. And I know a lot of people,
like they did get away with this. Like on a serious note though, that like there was not getting away with it, but there was a lot of marquee weddings and there was a lot of marquee parties and christenings and birthdays and anniversaries and all sorts going on in last year. But there also wasn't legislation in place to go, the guards actually to come and fine you or come and tell you to stop. Like that wasn't in place last summer. Like the same as you weren't going to get fined €100 for driving to your local beach because it's 7k instead of 5k from your house. So like things are a lot stricter and there's a lot
and
more
that is a sentiment change also. I didn't want to get into it too much, but there's a sentiment change in terms of what the guards are doing, what the rules are. And there is threats of we're going to put in place more legislation, whether it's to do with travel or whatever.
I couldn't deal with the pure pressure of like, okay, I'm just going to have I'm only having 60 instead of 50. Like it's only 10 extra people. I'm going to put the marquee in the back garden. Sure, it'll be grand. And the band wasn't allowed in the venue, but I'll get a band to the house. I would be literally on a knife's edge the whole day that a neighbour, because we've been at weddings and they weren't actually doing anything they shouldn't have been doing, but it looked like extra cars because everyone arrived in their own cars because they weren't sharing transport.
Yeah, true.
And they did call the guards. And the guards did come to where we were and question what we were doing. So if
they were cool and they were sound when they came because they realised this isn't the case of 100 people in a house.
And there's no marquee and there's they're not having a big party but it is going on. Like we've seen guards, because we've been out of weddings, like we've gone through many checkpoints checking what we're doing. We've seen the guards pull up cyclists and be like, lads, where are you coming from kind of thing. So you don't want that pressure either. And there's this it's the whole feeling of am I doing something wrong?
Yeah.
will I get caught? Do you know? And now everyone has their own, like some people be out there be like, yeah, sure, look, if I get caught, it'd be worth it.
Yeah.
But can you imagine? I just couldn't. I couldn't.
For it to be at the back of your mind during the day.
Couldn't be dealing with it. But yeah, so we can get it's when it comes to anyone looking to do a wedding when you don't want masks, you don't want curfews, you don't want a limit on the number of people that can be there, you want a packed dance floor, you want the old school wedding that we knew in 2019,
Yep.
which seems like a millennium ago at
Yep.
this point. Like if it was me and I wanted that wedding, I wouldn't be planning it for this year.
Okay, 2021 is not a restriction-free wedding.
It's not a restriction-free wedding. I think there will be some level of restrictions throughout the year. And it might just be something small. We could have 100 people there, but all those 100 people, they have to have a mask on. Or you have to finish up at 11:30 because the curfew is still in place. So I think you just need to, because a lot of people are fixated, and when I mean fixated, all they can see is numbers. Numbers, but you have to think about how will the day run? How will this part of the day be? How will that part of the day be? How will I feel about this? And it's important.
Right, so that's predictions in a roundabout way. You're asked...
An hour and a half predictions there, was it?
I was on the phone to Finbar
Oh, from ArcLight,
from ArcLight.
the band.
We were talking about headphones, amplifiers,
Okay,
digital to analog converters.
okay.
And then Finbar mentioned something and I was kind of like,
Was it a light bulb moment?
bring, you're
Okay.
dead right. Now we kind of knew without saying it, but Finbar actually said it. So
Does Finbar know you're robbing his moments of light bulbness?
no, he loves this, and sure we have the crack.
Okay.
So Finbar is quite happy to.
You talk longer on the phone than I do to any of my girlfriends.
Well,
It's pretty epic.
You kind of go off in tangents left and right
okay.
and whatnot.
Okay, go
Do
on.
you know?
Go on, tell me.
So do you remember my prediction in November 2020? Yeah, November 2020. I predicted that on the 3rd or 4th of January 2022 there will be no restrictions.
Oh yeah.
That's
still is that still on the internet?
That's
is it?
looking in doubt. I'm getting nervous
Oh,
now. It's
he's gone red in the
particularly
face.
after your
Oh.
kind of pessimism there now. You're really kind of a downer
I'm
for
not.
weddings.
I'm trying to be realistic because I'm sick of people telling people something that they just made up.
Right. So first we had the plan for reopening society. That was last year, the phases. So there was 5 phases. They scrapped the phase, they put it down to 4, they sped it up, got all the businesses
And
open.
they realised this isn't a 3-month pandemic, it may be a bit longer.
Yeah. And so that was kind of like summer
Yeah.
last year, May, June, July, when everything kind of
Yeah.
opened up and weddings got up to 50 at one stage, pubs were open and all sorts.
August 2020, the golden month of
Right.
2020.
Then they brought out this guy, which is the National Framework for Living with COVID.
Right.
Apparently you can't live with COVID. So that was a bad idea to call it that. So that was for living with COVID, and that resulted in the Christmas disaster, the third wave, the surge, January 2021 awfulness, right? So that's that, right? The next kind of number to be watching out is there's going to be an obsession over what percentage of the population do we have vaccinated. Because when we get to a certain percentage of the population vaccinated, we can do this, and this.
I must say it's very slow though. Jesus, lads, come on.
Right. So say towards the end of the year, say August, September, October, when they have whatever they have vaccinated, there's going to be a post-vaccination probation period to release humans back into a pre-COVID type society.
Is this Finbar's words?
No, I just went with it. So Finbar reckons that there's going to be another framework, and he's right. So and the logic is basically when everyone's vaccinated, say 50, 60, 70% of people are vaccinated.
Yeah.
This framework is kind of not relevant anymore because this is to do with non-vaccinated frameworks
No
and
protection
trying
there
to
at
go
all.
back and forth,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But now you presume with vaccination that maybe you can do a bit more. Retail can be open a bit more regularly.
Schools? Can we get them back to school,
Schools
please?
can-
Yes.
Maybe
Please.
next year's
Yeah.
school won't be any messing. And so you'll probably have 3 levels, say it'll be tighter. So it'll probably be something like the most extreme level will be there's loads of COVID over there, we need to lock down.
Okay.
The other level will be like you can pretty much do whatever you want to do, but within certain rules of say in a pub or a restaurant, there has to be some sort of measures of how many people, like a capacity within a pub or something based on the square footage or something like that.
An All-Ireland final and like we're all jammed in like sardines.
Yeah, so like if we're thinking about say Christmas 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah, so imagine like all of the pubs in every city open up, Christmas parties and stuff. They're going to have to kind of, even though we're vaccinated a lot, they'll probably have to say certain amount of capacity and you have to do whatever you have to do.
Well, they're going to have to see how like it actually pans out when you do get your percentage that are vaccinated. Well, what's the knock-on effect? Like, is there less cases? Is there less people sick? Is there less people dying? Is it working? Like we know it works, but how does it work when it comes to like that magic percentage they're
practice,
talking about? Yeah.
And then the other level will basically be like, there's pretty much no COVID in this society. Like it's really low numbers, like the same way that you would have a flu or a cold or pneumonia or something like that. You can do what you want, lads. Okay. So there might be kind of like at the end of the year some sort of framework, basically saying we're all vaccinated. We're going to let you do whatever. Work away.
Almost like a zero COVID land.
Yes.
Move me to Australia now.
And then, So it's like, it wouldn't surprise me if there was something like that kind of, we have to be cautious, but we might have to put in place a restriction and we might have to lock down a certain town because there was a meat factory outbreak because of a pub and then it got into a school. Like,
but they're not just going to vaccinate everybody, stop monitoring it and say, lads, well done.
Yeah, best of luck with that.
Yeah.
Well, in the Irish approach of managing things, maybe, but so in terms of prediction throughout the whole year, you're probably putting up with these levels up until a certain point. Then you're going to get to a certain point of vaccination. They're going to have to tell us something about how they're going to go forward post-vaccination. Now, I really hope that in January 2022, they just basically say there are no restrictions. This is the disease that's just out there. It's the same as any other disease. And hopefully you don't get it, you're vaccinated and continue on.
There's no more variants.
And then the other thing is variants. So that's that.
That's all you had to say, was it? Because I thought you had like, a little bit to say today, but I didn't realise it was that much, to be honest. But other than that, I mean, things are good,
Hopefully we don't. That was a long podcast to an extent.
We haven't done one in a month, so, to be fair, you had a lot of time to think.
And hopefully we don't have to do another one in terms of what the next level is and what the guest and other thing is until, say, the 5th of March.
Well, the hope is that they come out just before the 5th of March and they say, lads, we're still doing well and we can now go to level 4.
I looked at the calendar, so that's like a Friday.
Is it?
So the 1st is a Monday. So
because Michal has to get on a plane and go see Biden with some shamrock.
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting to see what happens there. The anniversary of Leo coming down the steps and locking us all up. Flashbacks, Laura, do you remember? Can you see him coming down the steps?
I can.
And doing a big speech?
I can, because we had done a wedding the day before.
And hey presto.
Yeah.
So the 1st of March is a Monday, I think. You'll probably hear all the rumours and the leaks on the 2nd of March. They'll probably meet in the cabinet. Or the 3rd of March, meet in the cabinet.
The only surprise parts will be if they go to level 4, but they are a little bit more lenient on when it comes to, say, non-essential retail. Because I know that when it goes from level 5 to level 4, it goes from your 5k rule to your county rule. So I really hope that they keep that in place because I really want to go outside of my 5k.
Okay. Yeah,
and, like for walks and swims. I just want to leave 5k. I don't want to see anyone. I don't want to go in anywhere. I just want to be outside somewhere else.
And when people freak out and go, oh, there's a county restriction, can I still go to my wedding? Yes, you can. There's an exemption.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
we're not getting into it, but that's just to say it.
We're in Kildare next week.
Yep.
Somewhere like that.
Grant, we might do a montage of Heck for Crack.
Oh, God. See what mood I'm in. See what mood I'm in.
Right. I'm going to say goodbye.
Yeah, I think that was enough. Benny, we'll talk to you again in March maybe.